Cool. Hello, we made it. We're at the end of the ISAN, so thank you all for being here and for another great year. We're in our final session and should be a really nice, sweet session. Um, this year, again, minimal tech disruptions on my end, at least. I know there were a few on the other folks' end, but again, thank you all for being here. Uh, for new folks, I hope you have seen this community building, the folks here. These are your autoethnographic and narrative allies. Hopefully, you've met some folks, you've seen some work you like, continued the conversation. Just to give you some numbers, we had about 350 people participate this year across all 3 days. So that's really impressive, and thank you all for making it possible. So we have a final hour of a celebration and some joy. And this is the award session, and we've changed it up a little bit this year. Again, seeing what works. This is all a work in progress, and we try new things every year and see what works, what doesn't work. Um, just a brief overview of the awards, and then I will acknowledge our award recipients and ask them to say a few things. Each year, IAANI solicits nominations for various awards. This year, we solicited nominations for 5 awards: the Early Career Award, the Outstanding Book Chapter Award, the Outstanding Journal Article, the Arthur Bochner and Carolyn Ellis Resonance Award, and the Journal of Autoethnography Article of the Year. And before I get into the recipients, I do want to thank the members of this year's award review committees. We have Margaret Berg, Peter Guzassis, Art Bochner, Christine Brooks, Adam McLean, Callie Prince, Fiona Stanley, Annette Kappert, Christina Ivy, Lisa Spinazzola, Carolyn Ellis, Chris Tilly Lubbs, Craig Woods, Stephanie Young, and Craig McGill. I do not serve on any of the award committees, so you all are making this possible, these awards possible. So thank you so much. I would now like to introduce the award recipients. The links to the works or to their profiles, their faculty profiles, are in the program. So each of the works are there. After I acknowledge each person, I've asked them to offer a few remarks about their career or their work And after all of the recipients have been recognized, we'll open this entire session for discussions, questions you might have about their work, about their life, any advice, anything you would like to know about what they've done and are doing. So I'd like to begin with the Early Career Award. This award is designed to recognize scholars who have a demonstrated record of using autoethnography and narrative in exemplary and promising ways. Eligible nominees include anyone who has completed a terminal degree, an MFA, PhD, EDD, etc., during the 5 years prior to the year the award is given. So this year, those receiving their degree between 2019 and 2024 were eligible for this 2025 award. And it gives me great pleasure to recognize this year Early Career Award recipient, Mike Alvarez from the University of New Hampshire. Congratulations, Mike. I know you're here. Where are you, Mike? Come on the
Oh,
camera.
hi, I'm over here.
There you are. You're in space.
I'm in,
So
like Laurel is also in outer space, I see. So you have two people here floating in outer space. Well, thank you. First I'd like to say a few words of thanks. As they say, it takes a village to raise an autoethnographer, especially during these trying times. And I owe a debt of gratitude to everyone who helped me reach this point in my life and career. I'd like to thank members of the award committee, of course, and Tony, Carolyn, Art, and the many people who helped create this gathering space, which has provided me with a sense of belonging over the past few years. I'd also like to thank my partner, Cleves, for standing by me throughout my buoyant highs and crashing lows. I'm thankful as well to friends and family who bring color and levity to my life, to mentors and colleagues who are tireless in their support of me and my work, and to Carolyn Ellis, who opened the floodgates to autoethnography and encouraged me to reconcile my split selves through writing. So, a bit about my academic journey. When I was an undergraduate, I made attempts to terminate my life, and when I disclosed this to my psychiatrist, the ambulance was summoned. And upon release from the mental hospital, I was overcome with a compulsion to study madness, mortality, and suicide, and to seek companionship through the writing and sharing of stories. So, in short, I wanted both an academic life and a creative life. I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. But at the time, the two seemed irreconcilable. I pursued an MFA in creative writing, then a PhD in communication, but wasn't quite sure how I would merge the two until I was introduced to Carolyn during the tail end of my postdoc years. At that point, I'd already published my first book, The Paradox of Suicide and Creativity. It's a phenomenological study of highly creative people who died by suicide and in whom I saw the traumas of my own life reflected. And for that book, I immersed myself in my subjects' creative productions and life worlds. I challenged pathologizing discourses on madness, suicide, and grief. And I endeavored to restore agency to those who have been stripped of it. I was, and I continue to be proud of that book, but it left out one case study, and that's me. And it was an omission that I sought to correct through my second book, Unraveling, an autoethnography of suicide and renewal, published in 2023 in the Routledge Writing Live series. So, in writing Unraveling and in embracing autoethnography, I realized that I could have my cake and eat it too. But I also realized that one can't simply go back to the way things were. There is no closing Pandora's box on the ethnographic eye. Autoethnography is not a mere tool to add to one's theoretical or methodological toolkit. It's a way of being. And I've come to learn that to be an autoethnographer is to lead a responsible and meaningful life. It's to be open to play and experimentation and to seek inspiration in the extraordinary as well as the mundane. It's to remove that pesky wedge academia has placed between mind and heart, thinking and feeling. It's to muster the courage to speak the unspeakable when the time is right. And it's to accept that we will not always know where all the pieces belong. I've come to learn that everyone has their own unique journey to autoethnography, but through autoethnography, we find that we are not alone, even when it seems like we're the last person standing on Earth. In his essay, Why I Write Autoethnography, Chris Pulo speaks of the bridge building power of autoethnography. I love that about autoethnography, and I love that it has brought me here with all of you. So thank you for this loving acknowledgement of my life and my work thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That was beautiful. Really beautiful. Thank you very much. And good shout out to Poulos too, which we'll hear in a moment. Connecting some threads. The next awards I want to recognize are the Outstanding Journal Article and Book Chapter Awards. These awards acknowledge works published in the 3 calendar years prior to the year of the symposium of the award. So nominees this year had to be published between 2022 and 2024. Submissions were reviewed based on originality, creativity, accessible and well-crafted, evocative and analytical writing, engagement with lived experience such as emotion, subjectivity, and the body, and significance of contribution to the field and or to social justice. The first award recipient for the Outstanding Book Chapter is Khyati Tripathi's chapter, Death, Priests, Pollution, and Me, an Autoethnographic Account. Khyati is unable to be with us today, but in the program, I encourage you to click on the link to the chapter. You can find the chapter, you can read the chapter, and you can read the abstract for the chapter. It is a phenomenal work. So a virtual recorded congratulations to Khyati. So yeah. The second the award goes to the Outstanding Journal Article goes to Sleiman Hajj for the article Narrating Sexual Blackmail in Lebanon, a present-day pathography. The link to this article is also in the program. and you can read the abstract. Congratulations, Sleiman. Are you here with us? I think you are.
Yes, I am here with.
There you go.
I'm not sure
Hello.
if you're able to see my camera. Things appear a bit messy. Am I showing on camera or?
We can hear you just fine. We just can't see you.
Okay. I apologize about that. I think I'm having trouble with my camera. But if you're able to hear me, then I have prepared a couple of words which I'd like to share with you. So first of all, I'm really very honored to have been selected for this year's Outstanding Article Award, particularly because the winning publication is on the topic of sexual blackmail in particular, which I believe is a social problem of which we've been seeing a terrifying increase during and after the COVID pandemic in many countries in the world. In Lebanon in particular, which is my country of origin, this problem has been exacerbated by sex stigma, or the social shame that still attaches to sexuality and to being sexually active. Being a professor of creative and life writing, I had long been aware through my own students of various dimensions of sex stigma, such as hymenoplasty, discrete abortions, and of people, particularly queer people and women, having to be very careful about personal as well as health-related aspects of sex and sexuality. But just like the word cancer is one that we are all familiar with, all of us know of someone going through cancer, it is still not necessarily a word that is part of our own dictionary or daily life. And so it is with sexual blackmail. It is very possible that someone in our entourage might be going through this problem as we speak, but unlike a cancer patient, feels powerless to share anything about it. That's why going through what ultimately proved a failed blackmail attempt, in my case at least, was my main motivation behind writing the Autoethnography, which ultimately won this year's award. In it, I connect my own experience with those of many others, and I try to explore and understand the mechanisms and modus operandi of sexual blackmail in a context where attitude to sex and sexuality remain so straight-laced. More generally, I've used autoethnography in the past as a research method in my creative writing outputs in such a way that the lived experience itself, narrated in full as a story, becomes the generalizable research. And I'll conclude by saying that the winning article on sexual blackmail is itself part of an overall edited book of autoethnographies, which I've published a few months ago with Routledge, the title being Lebanon Pathography, Converging Pathologies and Lived Narratives since August 4, 2020. I'll be happy to talk a bit more about it if need be, and if people are interested in asking about it during the Q&A. And I thank you very much again for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Congratulations. And here is a link to the book. So congratulations on the book. Congratulations on your award, and also a shout out to folks with any of these books. Feel free to read them and do a review for the Journal of Autoethnography. That would be really fantastic. We welcome. So congratulations on your award and your book. Really cool. Great to have you here with us too at this.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Our next award is.
Can't hear you.
You muted yourself, Tony.
I did mute myself. I'm tired of hearing myself. So, so we're going to move from the present to the past with the Arthur Bochner and Carolyn Ellis Resonance Award. This award recognizes a work, a book, article, book chapter, performance art installation, demonstrating excellence in autoethnography and narrative, and that has stood the test of time. This kind of work is often considered to be a classic text that has served as a stimulus for novel approaches to and understandings of autoethnography and narrative. For this award, nominated works must be at least 5 years old at the time of the nomination. The 2025 Arthur Bochner and Carolyn Ellis Resonance Award goes to Laurel Richardson for her book, her classic book, Fields of Play, Constructing an Academic Life, published in 1997 by Rutgers University Press. Congratulations, Laurel. There's a link to the book in the program, and I love that even when we started yesterday, a few folks referenced this book in some of the opening sessions. So welcome, Laurel. Congratulations on this award.
Thank you, Tony. I've not been able to write remarks. Here I'm a writer and I can't write remarks. I didn't know this was happening until actually Patricia Levy told me, and then Carolyn told me, and it was like, what? It's terribly wonderful at this point in my life for this book to receive this award. I thank you very much for the idea of the award. You're making me think, what kind of award can I give? The kind of award I want to give is, I'm going to say it right here. I want to give a random award that anybody who's at the conference, his name is in a hat and it's pulled out, and that person gets some money. That's all I can think of. Anyway, that's thinking outside the box of the normal awards, I guess. Thank you for the award. Thank you for the opportunity for me to reread Fields of Play. I haven't read it since it was published, and I love that the book starts with acknowledgments, and so I got to relive my late husband, my late friends, other friends, because they were acknowledged, my family. It was like I was put back in time, and it was wonderful. And I used the expression socio-bio because some of the articles were written before there was autoethnography, and that was my word, socio-bio. So I'm just very appreciative of being able to read the book again, and I'm going, oh my God, was she smart? What a smart lady she was. Motivated, so motivated. And I was in the last woke section, and I loved hearing the motivation, the wokeness, not so much the wokeness as the energy, which is the same energy that's in this book, and that's why people still buy it. It's got that energy of, yeah, we can do this, we can do this. Let's put all these things together, politics, poetics, and who I am, and I'm important, and all that stuff from this young person. And Mike, you said everything that I might have said, so thank you. And I see you're on my little list to become a friend with on Facebook. I will tap you and say, yes, we'll be friends, because now we're out in space together. What I really want to say is thank you to Tony and Art and Carolyn and everybody. This is an incredible conference. I'm so lonely for this work because I'm writing now. I'm writing a lot of writing, but I'm so lonely for this kind of community and belongingness. I have communities I belong to. I have I'm a sociable person. That's why I'm a sociologist. I have many groups, but this one is so special. And the work you people are doing it blows my mind. I mean, I cannot, I could have imagined that when this book was written, the kinds of work that's coming from you wonderful people. So thank you for this conference. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing your work. Thank you for teaching me. I learned so much yesterday. I couldn't get up today. I was up all night with my dog, but I just was overwhelmed with how much I'd learned yesterday from y'all. So thank you. That's nice. That's it.
Thank you, Laurel. Thank you. That's lovely. The final award, the final award and awardee we're going to recognize is for the 2024 Journal of Autoethnography Article of the Year. This award goes to the article published in the Journal of Autoethnography in 2024 that best demonstrates originality and creativity, the use of well-crafted, evocative, and/or analytical writing, shows the author's engaged lived experience, and makes a significant contribution to the field of autoethnography. Oh.
You're out in space, Tony, too. You're in space.
I am. I'm joining you. Yes. Yes. In 2024, we had 37 original unsolicited research articles that were eligible for this award. The 4-member review committee, these were all, for this award, we choose members of the journal's editorial board, undergo 2 rounds of review for the award. The first round narrows the 37 articles down to 3 to 5. And then the second round determines the top article from those 3 to 5. I appreciate this award so much because you never know what the review committee is going to choose, and it's really fascinating to see the process that they do, and that the authors often do not recognize that they're even being considered for this award just by being in the journal. So this year's award recipients, the 2024 Journal of Autoethnography Article of the Year goes to Christopher Poulos's Why I Write Autoethnography. Congratulations, Chris, for this.
Thank you, thank you. And you know, the email from Tony telling me I got this award came as a total surprise on one of those days where I was having a bad computer day, a bad thinking about Trump day, a bad day, and this turned my day around. It was a total surprise. I was really happy when I got the award, and I thank you, everyone that was involved in this. When Tony said we were going to do this panel, he sent a message saying, "Here's some things you might want to talk about," and I decided to do that. And for me, one of the pieces that really stuck out is, why did I even write this? And that came back to me because, so why did I write an article on why I write autoethnography? And part of that came from last year's IAANI Forum, some conversations that I had with people. And if you can go in person and to the IAANI Forum, please, you shouldn't miss it. And it was amazing. But this one person that I did not know came up to me and said, "Why do you do this?" And I was like, "Oh God, somebody's asking me why I do what I do." Well, okay, so I decided to write about that. If you're old enough to remember, or in actual life or in syndication, an old TV show called Lassie. It was about a collie dog that was a hero dog. And there's at least one episode when somebody falls down a well. I'm sure of it, right? And then Lassie's needed to rescue that person from falling. Maybe it was Timmy, I don't know, but it falls into an old well and needs the help of a loyal dog to make it through. So in thinking about autoethnography, I really can't help thinking about wells of water, sure, but also wells of meaning and beauty and depth and emotion and spirit. And I meant to answer, how did I fall into this well? Well, like all my writing, I'm trying here to make sense of a seemingly random series of disruptive experiences, starting with how I discovered this road through reading the work of Bud Goodall, then Carolyn, Ellis, and Art Bochner, and others who were moving down this path in the mid to late 1990s. And just as much as how I got started, it was a kind of a random, fortuitous, disruptive accident, which I talk about in the piece. So were most of the steps of this journey. Trauma, death, 9/11, cruelty, secrecy, violence, weird tenure politics, on and on and on. I found myself writing my way through disruptions, and along the way, I somewhere found my voice. And also along the way, I stumbled into friends and allies. Bud Goodall hired me to work in his department. He introduced me to people like Norman Dinsen and Carolyn Ellis and Art Bochner and Ron Pelias and Nick Trujillo and Laurel Richardson. I once wrote a piece about walking between Laurel and Bud to lunch at ICQI, and I called it a giant sandwich because I was really feeling like the middle between a couple of pieces of people of pioneers in this field and giants in the field. And so I met these people in person. I met my autoethnographic heroes, and somehow they accepted me like we were old friends, and I'll be forever grateful. And I discovered here on the ever-widening autoethnographic road a series of powerful, overpowering, therapeutic, beautiful, tragic, joyful moments and meetings, and I fell in love with the power of the word in a whole new way, in a new form. And I joined this widening circle of great friends, what Alyssa Foster calls froligs, friend colleagues, who again welcomed me with open arms in ways I had never experienced in my life, and who played with me in the ever-blossoming field of autoethnography. Alyssa Foster, Lisa Tillman, Lisa Lockford, Bryant Keith Alexander, Katrina Douglas, David Carlos, Tony Adams, Andrew Herman, Donna Hinson, Marcelo Diversia, Claudia Moreira, Tammy Spry. So many frolics I hesitate to go on because I might forget to mention someone, might have already. Please don't take it personally. And besides, I could go on for days and days with that list, probably. This ever widening, ever expanding, beautiful community of autoethnographers. And along the way, I also became a little serious about taking this work seriously through hard-won lessons, yes. And I wanted to write a little bit of a riff on how to become, how to be an autoethnographer, how to live an autoethnographic life, how to do it right and do it well. But of course, I just sort of stumbled into it myself and worked and worked and worked on it. So you could just find yourself doing that. There's much magic in the accidental, the fortuitous stumbling, the opening to new ways of life. And so if like me, you tend to resist rules or guidelines, stop at that point in the paper. You don't have to read the rest. And then fall on in anyway and join us in this deep, beautiful well.
Wow. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you, Chris. I would now like to open this room for a discussion of any of these works, any questions you have of the folks here, anything you'd like to go, any place you'd like to go. Adam's on the moon now too. We have some solidarity.
I just couldn't help resist after Laurel.
Questions? Laurel, I always want to ask, and you hinted at this just in your remarks, that you see a space like this, you've been active in this online space for a few years, and you see all of these folks doing this work, and I know we can't go back in time, but can you remember, I mean, how was doing autoethnography and writing that book it was published in 97. I'm guessing you were working on this in 94, 95.
Well, before then, actually, Tony, because some of the articles had been published.
That's right.
Like in the 1980s. In fact, I thought the book was published in 1980s. I didn't realize till I looked at it again. What was your question?
So, I mean, what was it like doing this work back then? I think that we're
I think it's the same thing it is right now.
Okay.
My fights were different. The world I was in was as struggling for me as it is for you today. And I guess I like to fight, as long as I think it's worth the fight. And I think it's in this book or it's somewhere. When I was a kid, I was a fighter, a literal fighter, a little girl fighter. And my dad required me to measure anybody I was going to fight against. And it had to be bigger than me. The person had to be bigger. I was not the same size, not smaller for sure, it had to be bigger. And I think I've carried that through. So what am I fighting? The academic rules and constrictions that are definitely bigger than me. And that gives me energy. Maybe that answers your question. I'm shocked at everything I wrote when I read it. I'm going, oh my goodness, look at all that stuff I put together. Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Okay.
Carolyn.
Well, I have a couple things I can say. Laurel, I'm so pleased that your book won this award. It really had a powerful influence on me, and all reminds me of those glory days when you and Norm and Ron and Art and me and others were just out there, determined that we were going to do this thing that we wanted to do, which was really to humanize the whole academic project and let there be emotion. And there was emotion, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful time.
Yes, it was.
And I love reliving it here with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for being here. And I want to make sure that we acknowledge Tony here.
Oh God, yes.
I know all of you have some idea of the work he does and how he holds all this together and is multitasking and on task for every little thing. He lives and breathes autoethnography in this world, and really we could not have this without him because I'm unable to do all the detail work. But I sure love working along with him. He is our colleague, our son, our good friend, our confidant, our organizer, our person to go to when there's trouble. And he's doing that for all of us. And thank you, Tony.
Thank you all.
Christopher's in the space now too. It's a great metaphor.
I was hoping to find you all up here. Apparently, I'm on a different planet. I don't know.
No.
Other questions, comments for our awardees?
I have a question.
Yeah, Bertie.
Yeah. So I really love this project of humanizing, bringing humanity more into the academic project, the academic realm. And, you know, I started coming to this conference a few years ago. I've never done autoethnography. I've been out of academia for a number of years, but thinking about going back and finishing some work that I started. And I was really, really marked by the friendliness and personability, which is so different from my academic kind of experience many years ago. So I really appreciate that as a project. It makes it much more relatable and much more accessible. I'm wondering if emotions are a compass that leads to creative endeavor and that opens up possibilities. I'm wondering whether that's a so what that happens through your work, in the sense that a lot of times when we're in strict disciplinary environments, we have very tried and true ways to think about solutions and to think about what's possible. And I'm wondering, you know, how emotions connect to creativity and then open up possibilities. And just, you know, over the longer of your careers, do you have examples of this to share to inspire the rest of us?
Are you asking the group?
I'm asking all of you.
That's what I thought. Yes.
Yeah.
Don't be shy. Sophie, wake up. Answer her.
I have no answers, but I think, like all of us, what we have is the connection with each other and the hope that we find in each other to persist in the belief that that critique only sails if it comes with love, if it comes with the kind of fierce love that we try to practice in our work. And I don't know, at this moment especially, I think, bless you all for refusing to be cowed and courage.
I would just add, you know, the first academic conference I presented at was National Communication Association in 1996. And I had a previous career before that, but my first presentation was a presentation in an organizational communication panel. And I got about 2 paragraphs in, and this was not an autoethnography, it was a study of power in organizations. But I got about 2 paragraphs in, and this guy stands up in the audience and says, red faced with his fist clenched, and says, "I don't have to listen to this Marxist bullshit anymore," and stormed out of the room. And I said, I looked at everybody and I said, well, yeah, I guess he won't be, will he? And it wasn't long after that I realized that there's a lot of harshness in the academy. But right after that, I went to a panel where I had done an autoethnography, and a guy that's not an autoethnographer, but an ethnographer, Jerry Phillipson, was the respondent. And he was so gentle and I mean, I was a student. He was so gentle and like supportive of what I was doing. And then from there on, like I affiliated with ethnography people and autoethnography people, and I never looked back. The people, I think, as the last person said, Sophie said, the people made the difference for me. When I walked into the ICQI the first year, and Norman Denzid acted like he was my oldest friend. And like, I'd never met the guy before. We had corresponded on email, which if you knew Norman was like little things like he said, I sent him a piece and he said, "Bravo." That was his response. And I said, "Oh, does this mean it's published and it's going to be published?" And he said, "Absolutely." That's a master of brevity in email. But so I think the connection and I thank you, Tony, for pulling this together and to managing all this and to keeping the torch going, because I, like Carolyn, I don't have the bandwidth to handle all that you do, but I really appreciate you and Andrew for being co-editors of that beautiful journal, and all the hard work and love. It's a labor of love, and I can tell that it's a labor of love for you guys. And that really is meaningful and beautiful. So
I wanted to respond to Mike. You know, I have no choice. I live the autoethnographic life. And it's not, I'm kind of putting together the creative and the emotional and my actual life. And the creative and the emotional and the spiritual for me all fit together. And I live the ethnographic life, my I seem to have no choice. And maybe I do, but I don't. I like my life. I love my life. I like what I see. I like what I do. I have fun. I see things. I'm me. I see things that maybe other people don't or don't want to, and that's okay. But I just want to say the commitment to autoethnography, it ends up being more than the academic, and it is the people, it's all of that, but it's also the self that here I am, and that's how I see the world, and so how I'm part of this world, and it's joyous, it's joyful. I mean, I'm writing now a long book that doesn't really have a name yet. I'm calling it, for the minute, Collusion. I had a major fall a year and a half ago, broke my back, broke my neck, broke my arm, broke my head, broke my eye socket, couldn't anything. And here I am living independently, walking, talking at this conference. You know, and I have good friends here now, and they're commenting on, you must be, you know, how come you're always seeing things that we don't see? That, you know, the people who've moved into this beautiful independent living place, that people, which they've done, is they've come back into here, they're in a new place, everybody's in a new place, and they're playing their old roles. So one here, another woman is a retired professor of business. And boy, oh boy, is she trying to straighten this place out. It isn't just doing it right. It's charging for this, it should have that. You know, how they keep themselves. They've moved to the new place, but they've kept their, and as I've kept mine. And I, I'm not in charge. I'm not going to be powerful here. I don't want to be. I just want to observe and participate and continue to have a grateful life. I've survived, and no one thought I would. And here I am. Yeah. And I will finish my book. I'm working on it very slowly. It will be done. So thank you, Mike, for raising how it's not just something you do on the side. It becomes who you are. Yeah. And Carolyn for knowing that from the beginning. And Art, where is Art? He's gone. And Tony.
He's right there.
Okay.
Sarah, hello. Come on.
Hello. So just listening to everyone, my takeaway is, as a first timer, my takeaway is autoethnographic work is a way of life. Now, my question to everyone, and especially the masters, the seniors in this field, if you would describe your journey of growing into who you are, what would that be like? What word would you use? But also, especially, how did you grow into that space of being comfortable, of making your life the study place, the study field? How did you get comfortable with being out there and not feeling like maybe after you put something out, going back in and cringing under your bed and saying, ooh, that's probably not something I should have put out there in the world?
Wanting me to answer? Or somebody else want to talk? I've talked a lot.
Go ahead, Laurel.
Okay, my dissertation, I was a mathematician. My dissertation was on pure mathematics, a study in the sociology of knowledge. I got a job as a woman because I taught statistics, advanced statistics, and theory. That's how come I got a job. I was in a car accident. I had a coma. When I got done with that, I couldn't do, and I still can't do my times tables past 5. I can do the 5s, but I can't do the 6s. I could no longer teach statistics. What am I going to do? I'm not tenured. And I couldn't remember anything, but I could write. And I could leave a space and fill in a word later when I couldn't remember it for the speaking of it. And so I slowly emerged into qualitative. And then I started teaching qualitative methods, although I'd never had it. Although as an undergraduate, I'd done interviewing for money. So for commercial interviewing about products. That starts it. And then I had to write for my life. There's no question about it. I wasn't tenured. I was divorced. I had 2 young children. I had to do something. And my heart and soul went to the writing I did. And then I lucked upon good fortune. Didn't luck up, yeah. My late husband, Ernest Lockridge, who did the cover for one of Christopher's books. And autoethnography on all of that. But your real question is, how do you have the strength? I believe we're all here for reasons. Thank you for agreeing with me, Sarah. I believe we're all here for reasons. We may not know them and we may not recognize them until later in our lives. And I'm still alive. I've survived car accident, coma. I survived blah, blah. I was a twin at birth and my twin died. I survived that. So there's a survival thing in me and a fighter. I'm a fighter and I have a reason for being here. And my dad used to say to me that I was gifted and that it was my responsibility to use my gifts for others. It was really hard for me to retire. I'm not retired yet. Am I answering your question? Okay, then let me the negative part. There's stuff I don't write about. There's stuff I don't share. I don't talk about my sons. I don't share their lives. I don't talk about my grandson. So there is stuff I don't put out there. So I've got boundaries. Does that answer your question? You make your own boundaries. That this is too much. I'm not going to talk about that. It's not mine to talk about. But that which is mine to talk about and might be of value to somebody else, such as me talking about recovering from a coma and not being able to do mathematics anymore, might be of value to some of you here. Does it answer your question? I don't know. I'm all teared up today. I'm all teared up. I really am teared up. I really am teared. My dog. I talk about my dog. My dog is. Okay, I'm going to say it right now. My husband died of Lewy body dementia, and at the end of his life, he's wandering around and making and just horrible. My dog has that now. So I am reliving my husband's death to my dog, who is 15 and a half. And it's very hard for me not to be crying. So there now I've shared with you where I am right now. Yeah. And I'm proud of myself. I still write and I'm still here. You know, I can do that. I need to shut up. Okay. Enough said. Shut up. Someone else, please talk. Tony. Hi, Tony.
Mark wants to say something.
Oh, good.
Yeah, thank you for that, Laurel. You've mentioned survival, and this is addressed to the sort of foundational figures here of autoethnography. So it's for you, but also perhaps for Carolyn and Art and any others. I was thinking about those academics who've lived through the era of Reagan and the Bushes, which perhaps might now seem slightly moderate before we found that sociopathy became normalized in the White House. But I was wondering if you have any inspiring stories of survival where there have been ideological attacks of whatever kind, either at that presidential level, at the state level, local, or even department level, where you've come across that hostility to this sort of discipline, and how you have survived that. That can help inspire us as we go through our current moment of tyranny and attacks on not just diversity and equality, but obviously disciplines like this.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, that's basically the basis of fields of play, where I was under attack all the time for being a woman in academia, doing qualitative research now. My chair thought I had a postdoc in medical sociology, and he thought I should go back and just do that. That feminism was a fad, and I should stop talking about women and talking about gender. It was just a fad. Go back and do medical sociology. I was taken off committees. I was not, I've mentioned elsewhere, I was not given a raise because my work was popular. I was not given a raise another year because I was having too much fun and I should be working. So yeah, that's yes. And as a young person, I marched around in Chicago, and you may not know it, but Chicago was a very, I went to the University of Chicago, and it was a very divided city. I sat at the Walgreens with a person of color, and they shut down the Walgreens. We're talking, okay, yeah.
Okay, I know we're at the end of the session, but I feel moved to tell just one quick story because maybe it will help someone who is hesitant to write. I wrote Final Negotiations about the death of my first partner. And when I went up for promotion, one of my colleagues in the field wrote a review saying that without Final Negotiations, I would have enough material to get promoted, but that with it, I didn't have enough. It was that bad. And she continued to write in this formal letter about how responding to the story about how I had taken the death from my partner's children and how I had lived a immoral duo life, which didn't include anybody but the two of us. And it goes on and on and on and on. So I get this letter and I come home and Art is there and I tell Art what's happened and then I just fall apart and I say, do you think I lived an immoral life? I mean, I was that taken by the comments from this person I respected in the field. And he, of course, did what he knows how to do, which is to embrace me, to love me, and tell me that, of course, I did not live an immoral life. And that was the bottom. That was hitting bottom. And I went to bed and covered up my head for a while. And then I got up more moved than ever to make this work. I believed in this book that was a personal narrative about loss and love. And I said to myself, okay, people talk about autoethnography being self-absorbed. This has not been a self-absorbed project, but at this moment, it's becoming self-absorbed if what you're going to do is live in this person's comments. You put the work out there, you don't have control over how people respond. And what you need to do now is not be self-absorbed, but turn your attention to the other. What can you learn about people from the way that they respond? What has been in their history and their socialization that makes them respond the way that they do? And I was renewed. It's like, of course, now I have to turn my attention to them and not just focus on my hurt about what someone said about my book. And that made me stronger. And it also gave me reasons to give to my students about how do you respond to pain when people respond to your life in your autoethnography. You turn it back on them. And so I don't know if that's helpful or not, but it sure helped me and it's continued to help me. I still turn it back.
It's very helpful. Thank you for everybody, I think.
Thank you. Sleiman, do you have a final question we can get in?
Art's hand is up.
Oh, I see Art too. Yeah.
I just wanted to answer Mark's question about disciplinary bias. So you know, my PhD was in creative writing, and then I was hired as a professor of creative writing. But my institution, you know, at least some in the institute did not really believe that creative writing could count as research in some ways, and that's why eventually my, you know, autoethnography was in some ways what redeemed my file and allowed me to get tenure eventually, because as Carolyn just mentioned, I think you know, when I worked beyond memoir and I brought in other people's perspectives as well and tied them along my own, which is what I did, for example, in the essay on sexual blackmail, then that allowed for making the case that, well, autoethnography can count as a mode of research on its own, which is what a lot of the senior figures in the field were also saying today. And the question about emotion, I think it was raised earlier as well. I mean, in relation to autoethnography, I can also comment on that from my experience in creative writing workshops, because those are the spaces where a lot of young people come to share and to write about experiences which really mark them, which can, you know, in some ways be traumatic, especially in this part of the world. I mean, where you constantly have wars, economic crises, and so on. And so the guard is gradually let down in these workshops, whereby they become these mutually you know, supportive venues for self-exploration and for healing. And eventually, you know, can mutate into the field of autoethnography as well. So yes, I think there's always a lot of root, a lot of foundation in starting from emotion, as opposed to more terse, more traditional approaches to research. Thank you again.
And Art, give us the last word, and then I have a few announcements to make before
we. Well, it would take me much too long to say everything that's running through my mind, and we're at the end of the time. But I think I think all we need to do is pay attention to the communal aspect of what we have here. And your life, your work is going to be a product of your relationships. The relationships that you form with other people, whether in your departments, in your disciplines, in groups like this, in these associations. Choose wisely and find support wherever you can find it. And part of it is a kind of dogmatic belief in yourself and in what you're doing, and a willingness to put it out there. And also, I think one of the things that's been lost over the years, which was very prominent in the early days of my academic life, is service. Service doesn't count, right? It doesn't give you big promotions. But if we don't serve each other, as you all are here, look how many people are still hanging around now. And the spread of autoethnography and narrative research is dependent on the service to this thing that we believe in, this kind of work, first person, accountability, narrative writing, autoethnography. And we have to be somewhat selfish about our own work, but unselfish in our commitment to a larger project. And a lot of names have been mentioned today. Norman Denzin, who passed away a couple of years ago, who was such a big influence on so many of us and helped us in this project. When Norman started qualitative inquiry, and when he started ICQI, there was not really a home for what we were doing, but he made a home for it. And we're trying to sustain that home through IAANI and through several other associations, what Katrina is doing in Great Britain, what Stacy has done in Australia. These are the movements of the future. And so find the support and connection. I was introduced to Laurel at a certain point. Laurel and I became friends. I didn't know her history, but I studied her history. And we had a correspondence for years. So I guess all I'm saying is this is a relational endeavor. Connect yourself to the people that you trust and who support you, and ignore all the voices of competition, individualism, and critique without a foundation. And it's been a long way. My doctoral dissertation was titled A Multivariate Analysis of Small Group Behavior in Four-Man Groups. That was the title. I've come a long way, baby. That's it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Art. Yes. I love your early work. So just a few announcements before we wrap up this session. Again, congrats to all the award recipients. This next year, we're going to do the next call for awards for following year awards. And we're looking for the outstanding book, outstanding edited book, outstanding audio and or visual project, outstanding thesis, master's project, and dissertation. And I'm glad Chris is here with us. The H.L. Bud Goodall and Nick Trujillo It's a Way of Life Award. I believe this next year is for the article or chapter. Is that correct? Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to think for a minute there. It's hard to think after two or three long days.
That was a dramatic pause.
So Def and will do the next Journal of Autoethnography Award. If you have stuff to submit, please do not be shy for those awards.